Hello everyone, kindly press the subscribe button on your screen and let me know where you're watching from in the comment. The day Alexandra Stone walked into my life started like any other, me pushing a mop across the marble floors of the Horizon Tower at 5:45 a.m., her Christian Louboutins clicking against the same floor at an hour when most executives were still dreaming in their penthouse apartments. I'd seen her before, of course. Everyone knew Alexandra Stone, the 34-year-old CEO who'd transformed a failing tech company into a billion-dollar empire. But she'd never seen me. Not really. Not until that morning when her perfect world started crumbling around her perfectly manicured fingers. "Excuse me," she said, her voice cutting through the pre-dawn silence. I looked up, surprised to find her standing there in a tailored charcoal suit, her dark hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. I'd been working the night shift at Horizon Tower for 3 years, and in all that time, the executives had mastered the art of looking through me rather than at me. I straightened up, suddenly conscious of my Navy custodial uniform with James stitched above the pocket. Her eyes were red-rimmed. Alexandra Stone had been crying. The woman whose face graced the cover of Business Weekly looking strong and invincible had been crying. "You're here every day," she said, not a question but an observation. "5 nights a week, yes." She nodded, seeming to make a decision right there, clutching her phone so tight her knuckles blanched white. "I need to ask you something completely inappropriate, and I'm willing to pay whatever it takes." My body tensed. In my 42 years on this earth, I'd learned that when wealthy people offered whatever it takes, they usually wanted something that would cost me my dignity, my principles, or my job. "I'm listening," I said cautiously. She took a deep breath. "My ex-fiancé is getting married this weekend. I RSVP'd months ago when I thought I'd be bringing my boyfriend, but we broke up last night, and I will not, show up alone." I waited for her to continue, wondering where this was going and why she was telling me, the night janitor, about her personal problems. Female CEO said to the black janitor. She laughed bitterly, referencing what I now realized must be a headline in her mind. "I need a fake boyfriend for a day at my ex-wedding." The silence between us stretched taut as the implications of her request sank in. "You want me to pretend to be your boyfriend?" I finally asked, just to be sure I wasn't misunderstanding. "Yes. One day. This Saturday. I'll pay you $10,000. My mop clattered to the floor. That was more than 3 months' salary. The money that could change everything, help my daughter finish college without taking on more debt, maybe even put a down payment on something better than my 1-bedroom apartment. But as I looked at this woman, this powerful, desperate woman, I saw something beyond the money. I saw fear. And pride. And something else I recognized all too well, loneliness. "Why me?" I asked, genuinely confused. "You could hire an actor or ask a friend. An actor would require paperwork and discretion agreements. A friend would require explanations. And both would require time I don't have." She glanced at her watch. "Besides, you have kind eyes." Kind eyes. 20 years of military service, a failed marriage, raising a daughter alone, a night spent cleaning up after people who didn't know I existed, all that, and this woman saw kind eyes. "My ex-fiancé Daniel is marrying my former assistant," she continued, her voice hardening. "Everyone in my industry will be there. Everyone will be watching to see if I fall apart. I need someone who looks nothing like what they'd expect. Someone who looks nothing like them," I translated. We both knew what she meant. A black man in his 40s who cleaned floors for a living was about as far from her social circle as one could get. "Someone who will surprise them," she corrected, but the damage was done. "Look, this is just business. I need to save face, and you need money. Simple transaction." I should have been offended. I should have picked up my mop and walked away. But something held me there. Maybe it was the money, maybe it was the broken look behind her confident facade, or maybe it was the fact that for the first time in years, someone in this building was actually seeing me. $15,000, I said, surprising myself. "And I'm not wearing a costume." If I go as myself. Her eyebrows shot up, either at my counteroffer or my condition. Then, slowly, a genuine smile spread across her face. Deal. Give me your number. My assistant will contact you with details. As she walked away, her heels echoing across the marble floor I'd just cleaned, I wondered what I'd gotten myself into. I, James Wilson, night janitor and single father, was about to enter the world of Alexandra Stone, tech mogul and heartbroken ex. Little did I know that one desperate request would unravel both our carefully constructed lives, forcing us to confront truths we'd spent years avoiding, about class, about race, about what happens when two people from different worlds suddenly find themselves depending on each other. And it all started with 10 simple words: I need a fake boyfriend for a day at my ex-wedding. 2 days after our early morning encounter, I found myself sitting in Alexandra's downtown penthouse, feeling as out of place as a dandelion in a rose garden. The place was all glass, chrome, and white furniture that looked like it had never been touched. A wall of windows showcased the city I cleaned every night but rarely saw from this height. "We need to get our story straight," Alexandra said, pacing in front of me. She'd changed from the power suit I usually saw her into slim jeans and a silk blouse that probably cost more than my monthly rent. How we met, how long we've been dating, all of it. What's wrong with the truth? I asked. Female CEO approaches janitor with inappropriate business proposition. Her eyes flashed. This isn't a joke, James. I'm not laughing, Alexandra. Alex, she corrected. My friends call me Alex. Are we friends now? I raised an eyebrow. She stopped pacing. For the next 48 hours, we're more than friends. We're madly in love. The absurdity of the situation hit me then, this woman who had everything but someone to love, and me, a man who had someone to love, my daughter Zoe, but nothing else. My phone buzzed. Speaking of Zoe. Dad, did you deposit the money yet? Registration closes tomorrow. I turned away from Alexandra, Alex, and typed, taking care of it today. Promise. Problem, she asked. I hesitated, then decided honesty was the only way to make this charade work. My daughter. She's at Howard University. Brilliant kid. Got a scholarship, but it doesn't cover everything. Something in Alex's face softened. How old? 20. Studying computer engineering. I couldn't keep the pride from my voice. Top of her class. You must have been young when you had her. 22. Just back from my first deployment. I didn't mention Zoe's mother, who decided military life wasn't for her and left us both when Zoe was 3. Some wounds never fully heal. Is that where you learn to stand like that? Alex asked. Military. I hadn't realized I was standing at parade rest, hands clasped behind my back, feet shoulder-width apart. Old habits. Army. 20 years. Retired as staff sergeant. She tilted her head. So how does a staff sergeant end up pushing a mop at Horizon Tower? The question stung, but I kept my face neutral. The same way a lot of vets do. The skills that keep you alive over there don't translate well over here. But surely? The money, I interrupted. You mentioned it would be ready today. Her cheeks flushed. She grabbed her phone, tapped a few times, then showed me the screen, a transfer confirmation to my account. $15,000. Just like that. Thank you, I said, my throat suddenly tight. This means my daughter can register for next semester. Alex nodded, then abruptly changed the subject. You'll need a suit. I have a suit. For funerals, I'm guessing. Not for a 5-star hotel wedding with tech billionaires and venture capitalists. I didn't argue. She was right. 3 hours later, I stood in a high-end boutique while a tailor measured me like I was some kind of royalty. Alex sat nearby, nodding or shaking her head at various fabrics presented to us. Navy, she decided. With your skin tone and eyes, navy will be perfect. The suit cost more than my first car. I tried not to think about it. Tell me about Daniel, I said as we left the store, Alex's driver holding the door for us, another first. The ex who's getting married. Her jaw tightened. Daniel Wellington. Harvard MBA, old money family, runs a hedge fund now. We were together 4 years, engaged for 1. And he left you for your assistant? I asked, regretting my bluntness when pain flashed across her face. Chloe was more than my assistant. She was my friend. Alex looked out the window. I brought her into my home, mentored her, trusted her. Then one day I came home early from a business trip and found them together. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. The worst part. She turned back to me, eyes shining with unshed tears. Everyone warned me. Said I was too focused on work, that I was neglecting him. Like somehow his betrayal was my fault. I recognized that pain, the way people rewrite history after a relationship ends, casting you as the villain in your own story. Why go to the wedding then? I asked the question that had been bothering me since our first conversation. Because not going means they win. Her voice hardened. Because I refuse to be the sad ex who couldn't handle seeing them together. Because every investor, competitor, and business partner I have will be there, watching to see if the great Alexandra Stone has a weakness. And do you? I asked quietly. Have a weakness? Our eyes locked, and for a moment, I glimpsed vulnerability behind her carefully constructed armor. The car stopped outside my apartment building, a far cry from her luxury high-rise. Saturday, she said, not answering my question. The car will pick you up at 2. The wedding's at 4. I'll be ready. As I turned to leave, she caught my arm. Her touch was light but sent an unexpected current through me. James? Thank you. For not judging me for this. We all have our armor, Alex, I said. Some wear designer suits, some wear janitor uniforms. But underneath, we're all just trying to protect the same vulnerable parts. She looked at me then like she was truly seeing me for the first time, and something shifted between us, something neither of us had anticipated or prepared for. I stepped out of the car, watching as it pulled away, carrying her back to her world while I returned to mine. But as I climbed the stairs to my one-bedroom apartment, I couldn't shake the feeling that after Saturday, neither of our worlds would be quite the same. What I didn't know then was that Daniel Wellington had other plans that would turn our simple arrangement into something far more complicated and dangerous than either of us could have imagined. Saturday arrived with the weight of expectation. I stood before my bathroom mirror, barely recognizing the man staring back at me. The navy suit fit perfectly, custom-tailored to my frame in a way that made me look like someone who belonged in Alex's world. But the eyes that looked back at me, they were still mine. Still the eyes of a janitor, a veteran, a father who had scrubbed floors for years to give his daughter a chance at something better. My phone buzzed with a text from Zoe. Good luck today, Dad. Don't forget to send pics. I smiled. I'd told her a sanitized version of the truth, that I was attending a high-profile wedding with someone from work. I'd left out the payment, the deception, the complicated emotions that had begun stirring in me since that early morning in the Horizon Tower lobby. At precisely 2 o'clock, a sleek black car pulled up outside my building. The driver, a man about my age but wearing a uniform that marked him as another invisible worker in Alex's world, nodded respectfully as he opened the door. Alex sat inside, a vision in emerald green that made my breath catch. Her dark hair cascaded over one shoulder, and she wore makeup that somehow enhanced her features without hiding them. When our eyes met, I saw a flicker of something, surprise, perhaps, before her professional mask slid back into place. You clean up well, she said, her voice softer than I'd heard it before. You sound surprised. Not surprised. She reached out to straighten my tie, her fingers lingering longer than necessary. Impressed. The car moved through the city toward the Four Seasons, where Daniel and Chloe would exchange vows. As we drove, Alex briefed me on who would be there, names that regularly appeared in business magazines and on financial news networks. I listened, trying to memorize details that might make our charade convincing. "Are you nervous?" she asked suddenly. "Should I be? These people can be ruthless. They smell weakness like sharks smell blood." I chuckled. "I've faced insurgents in Kandahar. I think I can handle a room full of rich people." She didn't laugh. "Different battlefield, same dangers." The car pulled up to the hotel entrance, where attendants in crisp uniforms opened our doors. As we stepped out, Alex's hand found mine, her grip tight enough to betray her anxiety despite her confident expression. "Remember," she whispered as we approached the garden where the ceremony would take place. "We met 6 months ago at a veterans charity event. You were volunteering." "I was a donor." "Not that far from the truth," I murmured. "Except for the charity part." She shot me a look, but there was no time for retorts as a woman approached, eyes widening at the sight of us together. "Alexandra! You came!" The woman air-kissed Alex's cheeks before turning curious eyes on me. "And who is this?" "James Wilson," I said before Alex could introduce me, extending my hand. "Alex's partner." The woman, Vanessa, I would later learn, Daniel's cousin, looked between us with poorly disguised shock. "How wonderful! How did you two meet?" Alex launched into our rehearsed story while I scanned the gathering. About 100 guests mingled in the hotel garden, which had been transformed into a floral paradise. Champagne flowed freely, and the air buzzed with the particular energy of the wealthy at play. And then I saw him, Daniel Wellington. Even without an introduction, I would have known him by the way Alex's body tensed beside me. Tall, blonde, with the polished good looks of someone born to privilege, he stood near the altar with a group of equally polished men. His gaze swept the crowd and stopped cold when it landed on us. "He's seen us," I whispered to Alex. "Good." She tilted her face up to mine with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Kiss me." I hesitated only a moment before leaning down to press my lips gently against hers. It was meant to be performative, a show for her ex, but something unexpected happened when our lips met. A current, like the one I'd felt when she touched my arm in the car days before, only stronger. Her hand came up to rest against my cheek, and for a moment, the charade fell away. When we separated, her eyes held confusion and something else I couldn't name. "Well, that was convincing," came a male voice from behind me. We turned to find Daniel Wellington himself, his smile not reaching his eyes. Up close, I could see what Alex had once been drawn to, confidence bordering on arrogance, the easy charm of someone who'd never been told no. "Daniel," Alex said coolly. "Congratulations." "Alexandra." His gaze shifted to me, assessing, dismissive. "And you are?" "James Wilson." I extended my hand again, noting how his grip tightened fractionally when I didn't look away. "Military?" he asked. "Army." 20 years. "And now?" Before I could answer, Alex interjected. "James runs a security consulting firm for tech companies." That's how we met. The lie took me by surprise, but I didn't let it show. This wasn't part of our script. Daniel's eyes narrowed slightly. "Interesting. I don't recall Alex mentioning you before." "Some things I prefer to keep private," she replied, her smile razor-sharp. A beautiful young woman in a sleek bridesmaid dress appeared at Daniel's side, Chloe, I presumed. Her eyes widened at the sight of Alex. "Alex! You came!" Her voice held genuine warmth mixed with discomfort. "I wasn't sure you would." I RSVP'd, Alex said simply, her tone giving nothing away. An awkward silence fell before Daniel cleared his throat. "Well, we should greet our other guests. James, perhaps later you can tell me more about this security consulting work. I'm always looking for new investments." As they walked away, I felt Alex trembling beside me. "What was that about?" I asked under my breath. "Security consulting." "I couldn't tell him you're a janitor," she hissed. He would have known this was fake immediately. The words stung more than they should have. "Right. Can't have people knowing you'd associate with someone who cleans floors. That's not what I meant. Isn't it? Our eyes met, tension crackling between us. But before she could respond, a familiar face in the crowd caught my attention, someone who definitely shouldn't have been there, someone whose presence changed everything. "Alex," I said, my voice dropping to a whisper as cold dread washed over me. "We have a problem." Standing by the bar, watching us intently, was my night supervisor from Horizon Tower. And beside him, looking equally interested in our presence, was Daniel Wellington's best man. "What is it?" Alex asked, following my gaze. "Who is that?" "Someone who knows exactly who I am," I said grimly. "And judging by how cozy he is with the groom's party, someone who's about to blow our cover sky high." "His name is Richard Keller," I explained as I guided Alex away from the crowd, my hand at the small of her back. "Night supervisor at Horizon. I report to him 5 nights a week." "What is he doing here?" Alex's voice remained composed, but I felt the tension radiating from her body. "That's what worries me. He's talking to the best man like they're old friends." We found a quiet corner behind a large floral arrangement. Alex's face had paled beneath her makeup. "If he exposes you as a janitor..." "It's not me I'm worried about," I cut in. "I'm used to people looking down on me. The question is, can you handle everyone knowing you paid the help to be your date?" Pain flashed in her eyes. "Is that all this is to you? A transaction?" The question hung between us, weighted with implications neither of us was ready to face. Before I could answer, the wedding coordinator announced that the ceremony would begin in 10 minutes. Guests started moving toward rows of white chairs facing an altar draped in flowers and crystal. "We need to get through this," Alex whispered. "Just stay away from Richard." But as we took our seats, I caught Richard watching us, a calculating expression on his face. When our eyes met, he raised his champagne glass in a mock salute. The ceremony proceeded with all the opulence money could buy. Throughout, I was acutely aware of Alex beside me, her subtle perfume, the way she held herself with practiced dignity, the slight tremor in her hands when Chloe and Daniel exchanged vows. When the bride and groom kissed, Alex's fingers found mine and squeezed, whether seeking comfort or keeping up appearances, I couldn't tell. The reception was held in the hotel's grand ballroom, transformed into a winter wonderland despite the autumn weather outside. Crystal chandeliers reflected off ice sculptures and silver decorations while a string quartet played softly in the corner. "Dance with me," Alex said as couples began filling the dance floor. I hesitated. "I'm not much of a dancer." "Neither am I," she admitted. "But it keeps us moving and harder to corner." On the dance floor, I held her closer than necessary, my hand resting against the warm skin exposed by her dress's low back. We swayed more than danced, finding an unexpected rhythm together. "You never answered my question," she said quietly. "Is this just business to you?" I looked down at her, at the vulnerability she rarely allowed anyone to see. "No," I admitted. "Not anymore." Something shifted in her expression, relief, perhaps, or recognition. She leaned her head against my chest, and for a moment, the charade fell away. We were just two people holding each other amid a crowd, finding unexpected connection. The moment shattered when a voice spoke from behind us. "Well, isn't this cozy?" We turned to find Richard, smirking. Up close, I could smell the alcohol on his breath. "Mr. Keller," I acknowledged, keeping my arm around Alex. "Wilson." His gaze slid to Alex. "Miss Stone." Quite a surprise seeing Horizon's CEO slumming it with the night staff. Alex stiffened beside me. "Excuse me." "Oh, did he not tell you that part?" Richard's smile widened. "James here isn't just any janitor. He's the one we assign to the executive floor because he's so thorough. Cleans your office every night, doesn't he, Miss Stone?" I felt sick as understanding dawned on Alex's face. I hadn't mentioned that detail, that I was the one who emptied her trash, wiped her desk, vacuumed her carpet 5 nights a week while she worked late at home. "Richard," I said quietly. You've had too much to drink. Not nearly enough, he countered. Not when I'm watching my employee escort my boss to a society wedding. Tell me, Ms. Stone, did you know your date here has been reading the confidential documents you leave on your desk? The accusation hit like a physical blow. That's a lie, I said, my voice dangerously low. Is it? How else would you explain the information leak about the Meridian acquisition? The night janitor with a daughter in need of tuition money just happens to have access to billion-dollar secrets. Alex stepped away from me, confusion and hurt in her eyes. James. I've never touched your documents, I said firmly. Never betrayed your trust. Then you won't mind if security checks your phone. Richard suggested. Daniel mentioned that someone's been selling Horizon secrets to competitors. When I saw you here with Ms. Stone, well, it all made sense. The pieces suddenly clicked together. You're working for Daniel, I said, the realization dawning. He brought you here to discredit Alex, to make it look like her company is vulnerable. Richard's expression confirmed my suspicion before he could deny it. Daniel is a smart investor. He recognized an opportunity. An opportunity to sabotage my company after I refused to sell it to him, Alex said, her voice steady despite the storm I could see building behind her eyes. That was always the problem between us, wasn't it? He wanted my company more than he wanted me. A commotion near the head table drew our attention. Daniel was there, speaking intensely with several men I recognized as Horizon board members. Right on cue, Richard smirked. Daniel is sharing his concerns about Horizon security protocols with your board. By Monday morning, there will be calls for new leadership. Alex's face drained of color. Everything she'd built was at risk, not because she'd brought a janitor to a wedding, but because her ex had orchestrated an elaborate scheme to undermine her. I need to stop this, she said, already moving toward the table. I caught her arm. Wait. Going over their defensive will only make you look guilty. What do you suggest? Let him destroy everything I've built. I looked around the room, at the powerful people watching this drama unfold, at Daniel's satisfied expression as he poisoned the well, at the phone in Richard's hand that likely contained evidence manufactured to frame me. In that moment, I made a decision that would change everything. Let me handle this, I said, my military training kicking in. But I need you to trust me. Completely. Why should I? She challenged, hurt still evident in her eyes. I don't even know who you really are. Yes, you do, I said softly. I'm the man with kind eyes, remember? The man who's falling for you despite every reason not to. Her breath caught. Before she could respond, I leaned down and kissed her, not for show this time, but with every ounce of genuine feeling that had been building since that first morning in the lobby. When I pulled away, I saw in her eyes the same realization that had struck me. What had started as pretense had become something devastatingly real. Trust me, I whispered again. She nodded once, and I turned toward Daniel and the board members, unaware that my next actions would not only save Alex's company but would irrevocably change both our lives in ways neither of us could have anticipated. I approached the table where Daniel stood with the board members, conscious of every eye in the room following me. Years in the military had taught me that sometimes the best defense is a bold offense, especially when your opponent thinks they've already won. Gentlemen, I greeted them, my voice carrying the authority I'd once used to command troops. I believe there's been a misunderstanding about Horizon security that needs immediate clarification. Daniel's smile faltered slightly. James, was it? This is a private business discussion. About a security breach that supposedly implicates me, I finished for him. I think that gives me the right to be part of the conversation. One of the older board members, Walter Jenkins, I recognized from Alex's briefing, studied me with interest. You're aware of the allegations? I am. And I can prove they're fabricated. I turned to face Daniel directly. What Mr. Wellington hasn't told you is that Richard Keller has been on his payroll for months, accessing Ms. Stone's office after hours and photographing documents. Daniel's face hardened. That's a serious accusation. One I can back up. I pulled out my phone and opened a video file I'd never thought I'd need to use. 3 weeks ago, I noticed someone had been through Ms. Stone's office before my shift. I set up my phone to record on the nights I wasn't scheduled. I pressed play, showing the clear footage of Richard entering Alex's office, rifling through papers on her desk, and taking photos with his phone. I reported this to building security. I continued as the board members watched with increasing alarm. They opened an investigation but asked me to keep it quiet. What I didn't know was who Richard was working for until today. Walter Jenkins turned to Daniel, his expression thunderous. "Is this true, Wellington?" Before Daniel could respond, I played my final card. Check Richard's phone. The messages between him and Daniel are there, along with payments to Richard's offshore account. Richard, who had followed me to the table, now looked panicked. He's lying. This janitor is making up stories to protect his girlfriend. Am I? I countered, nodding toward 2 men who had just entered the ballroom. Those are federal agents from the SEC. Building security contacted them when they discovered evidence of corporate espionage. They have a warrant for your phone, Richard. And yours, Daniel. It was a bluff. They were actually Horizon security guards Alex had texted at my request, but Richard didn't know that. He paled, looking frantically at Daniel before making a dash for the exit. The security guards, playing their part perfectly, intercepted him. In the chaos that followed, Daniel tried to maintain his composure, but the damage was done. The board members moved away from him, clustering around Alex, who had joined us, her head held high despite the whispers circulating through the reception. "How did you know?" she asked me quietly as Daniel was escorted out by hotel security, the wedding effectively ruined. "I didn't," I admitted. "Not until today. But I've seen men like Richard before, always looking for shortcuts, always bitter about those above them. When I caught him in your office that night, I knew something was wrong. I just didn't know how deep it went." She studied my face. "Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed the night janitor accusing your ex-fiancé of corporate espionage?" Her silence was answer enough. As the reception disintegrated around us, we slipped out to the hotel garden where we'd arrived just hours earlier, though it felt like a lifetime had passed. "I owe you an apology," she said as we sat on a stone bench beneath flowering trees. "For not telling you that you cleaned my office. For being embarrassed about where you work. And I owe you one for keeping secrets," I replied. "I should have told you about Richard." The night air was cool, stars appearing one by one above us. In the distance, we could hear the confused murmurs of wedding guests departing early, the dream day shattered by revelations and accusations. "What happens now?" I asked. "To Horizon? To you? The board will want a full investigation. Daniel's reputation in the business world is finished." She looked down at her hands. "As for me, I don't know. And us?" The question slipped out before I could stop it. Her eyes met mine, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen before. "Is there an us, James? A janitor and a CEO? If that's all we are to each other, then no," I said honestly. "But I think we're more than our jobs, don't you?" She reached for my hand, her fingers intertwining with mine. "The man who sees me as more than my title, and the woman who sees you as more than yours. Something like that." I smiled. "Though I should tell you, I won't be a janitor much longer." Her eyebrows rose in question. "I applied to finish my engineering degree," I explained. "The money you paid me? It's not just for Zoe's tuition. It's for mine too. 20 years ago, I had to choose between college and supporting my pregnant girlfriend. Now I can finally finish what I started." Tears shimmered in her eyes. "You never mentioned wanting to go back to school." "You never asked," I said gently. "We were too busy pretending to know each other to actually learn about each other." She laughed softly, the sound catching on something like a sob. "Can we start over?" "No pretending this time." In answer, I reached up to touch her face, my callous thumb brushing against her cheek. "Hello. I'm James Wilson." Former staff sergeant, current night janitor, future engineer, and father to the most amazing daughter in the world. Her smile was like sunrise breaking through clouds. Alexandra Stone. CEO, workaholic, terrible at relationships but willing to learn. And completely falling for a man with kind eyes who saved more than just my pride today. When we kissed this time, there was no audience, no pretense, no payment. Just two people who had found each other across worlds that should never have intersected, all because a desperate woman approached a janitor one early morning with 10 words that changed everything. I need a fake boyfriend for a day at my ex-wedding. Later, as we left the hotel hand in hand, neither of us knew exactly what the future held. The path between our worlds wouldn't be easy to navigate. There would be raised eyebrows, judgments, and obstacles neither of us could yet imagine. But we knew this: sometimes the most genuine connections begin with the most unlikely deceptions. And sometimes, when you pretend to be something you're not, you discover who you truly are. As we stepped into the night together, neither the janitor nor the CEO, but simply James and Alex, we were ready to write a new story, one that was entirely our own. And that concludes our story. Did you expect that twist? What did you think of James and Alex's journey from fake relationship to something real? I hope you enjoyed this emotional roller coaster as much as I enjoyed writing it for you. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe for more tales that bridge worlds and challenge expectations. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. What was your favorite part? Thank you for reading.